All right, class, let's dive into one of the absolute cornerstones of English literature, Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. Now I know, the name alone can sound a little intimidating, but trust me, you're in the right place. We're going to break down the famous general prologue, meet an unforgettable cast of characters, and see why the story is still so much fun. Let's get started. So, Chaucer kicks things off with some of the most beautiful lines ever written in English. He's painting this incredible picture of springtime, the gentle rain, the warm breeze, everything coming back to life after a long winter. And this isn't just pretty language for the sake of it. This rebirth in nature gets people feeling restless. It makes them want to get out, to travel, to go on what they called a pilgrimage. And really, that's the big question we're asking today. Because if you strip it all down, The Canterbury Tales is basically a road trip story. It's about a bunch of total strangers who just happen to meet at an inn and decide to travel together. And by describing them, Chaucer gives us this amazing and often hilarious snapshot of human nature that is just as true today as it was 600 years ago. Okay, so first things first, what is a pilgrimage? Well, back in the 14th century, it was a trip to a holy place. It was part religious duty, sure, but it was also kind of like a vacation, an adventure. And what's so important for our story is that it was one of the only times that people from every single social class would actually mix together. I'm talking nobles, clergy, and commoners, all on the same road. It's the perfect setup for a story. So where are they headed? They're all going to the cathedral in Canterbury. Specifically, they're going to visit the shrine of St. Thomas a Becket. He was a super famous archbishop who was actually murdered inside his own cathedral way back in 1170. His shrine became the most popular pilgrimage spot in all of England, a place people went to pray for healing and forgiveness. Our story kicks off at a place called the Tabard Inn, right outside London, and our guide through all this is the narrator. Now, here's a clever little trick. The narrator also happens to be named Chaucer. He's actually a character in his own story. He's there, getting ready for his own pilgrimage, when this huge, motley crew of other travelers shows up. And what a crew it is. There are 29 other pilgrims to be exact. And as you can imagine, it's a total cross-section of medieval life. You've got everybody from a perfect noble knight all the way down to a loud drunken miller, all stuck in the same inn by pure chance. And our narrator is just fascinated by them all. So the narrator makes a promise, both to himself and to us, the readers. He basically says, okay, before this trip even starts, I'm going to introduce you to every single person here. I'm going to tell you what they do, what they're like, and even what they're wearing. He's setting himself up to be our eyes and ears on this whole journey. And this, right here, is where we see Chaucer's real genius. He doesn't just give us a boring list, oh no. He paints these incredibly vivid portraits. Some of the characters are the absolute perfect ideals of what they're supposed to be. And others, well, others are wonderfully flawed and, frankly, hilarious. Let's meet some of them. Chaucer starts right at the top of the social ladder with the knight. And let me tell you, this guy is the real deal. If you asked anyone in the Middle Ages to describe the perfect knight, this is who they would describe. He is the gold standard. Look at the contrast here. On the one hand, he's this incredible, fierce warrior who has fought and won battles all over the world. But in person, he's humble, gentle, and quiet. And that last detail is so important. His tunic is stained from his armor. That tells us he's not flashy. He's literally come straight from battle to this pilgrimage to give thanks. He's the embodiment of chivalry. All right, so after the perfect knight, we meet the prioress, a nun named Madame Eglantine. Now, she's a high-ranking member of the clergy, but Chaucer immediately starts dropping these little hints that her priorities are, shall we say, a little mixed up. This is our first real taste of Chaucer's gentle but brilliant satire. This chart just lays it all out perfectly. A nun is supposed to be humble and devoted to God and the poor. But this prioress, she's obsessed with having perfect table manners and trying to speak fancy French. She gets weepy over a mouse in a trap, but no mention of her helping people. And the final perfect detail is the golden brooch she wears that says, "Love conquers all." For a nun, that definitely sounds more like earthly romance than divine love, right? Now, if the prioress's flaws were subtle, the monk's are not. He's another religious figure who is supposed to live a quiet life of prayer and study. But this monk, he thinks that's ridiculous. He's a robust, outdoorsy guy who loves to hunt and absolutely hates being cooped up inside. I mean, just look at this. Everything a monk should do, he does the exact opposite. He should be praying, but he's out hunting with his pack of dogs. He should be poor, but his robes are trimmed with expensive fur. He should be living a simple life, but he owns a stable of fine horses and loves to eat rich food. Through these details, Chaucer is taking a pretty sharp jab at how wealthy and corrupt some parts of the church had become. Okay, get ready for one of the most famous, most fantastic characters in all of literature. Meet the wife of Bath. She's not a noble, she's not clergy, she's part of the growing middle class. And she is bold, she is funny, she is experienced, and she is completely unforgettable. She is just a force of nature. She's a successful businesswoman, an expert cloth maker, she's a world traveler. Oh, and she's been married 5 times, so she considers herself an expert on love and relationships. Every detail, from her flashy red stockings to her gap-toothed smile, which in those days suggested a passionate nature, paints a picture of a woman who just lives life on her own terms. Now, just when you might be thinking that Chaucer has a problem with all religious people, he introduces us to the parson. He's just a humble village priest, and he is everything the monk and the prioress are not. He is the genuine article, the true ideal. The parson truly lives his faith. He's poor in money because he gives everything he has to his parishioners. He walks for miles in any weather to visit the people in his care. Chaucer's point is so powerful here. By showing us someone this genuinely good, he makes the hypocrisy of the others seem even worse. He's not attacking religion, he's attacking the people who don't live up to it. Okay, let's head down to the other end of the social spectrum and meet the miller. This guy is big, loud, strong, and pretty crude. He's a working-class guy, and Chaucer describes him with this amazing energy. He's not a good person, not by a long shot, but man, is he full of life. Chaucer really doesn't hold back here, does he? He tells us the miller is strong enough to break a door down with his head. He has a wart on his nose with hair growing out of it. He's a cheat. That thumb of gold means he literally puts his thumb on the scale to overcharge people for grain. He loves to tell filthy stories and plays the bagpipes to lead everyone out of town. He's loud, dishonest, and you absolutely cannot ignore him. So, we've met a few of the key players, but what's the point of putting them all together like this? Well, Chaucer isn't just writing about individual characters, he's creating a whole society in miniature. Back then, people thought of society as having 3 main groups, or estates: the nobility who fought, the clergy who prayed, and the commoners who worked. Most stories only ever focused on the nobles. But what Chaucer did, which was totally revolutionary, was to give characters from all 3 groups real complex personalities. This was a huge deal, and it shows us that he was interested in everybody, not just the people at the top. So that brings us back to our first big question. Why are we still reading and talking about this 600-year-old book? Why does it still matter so much? Well, it's because people are still people. The character types that Chaucer sketched out are all still around us. You know, the truly honorable public servant, the person who's more obsessed with their image than with doing good, the corrupt official, the loudmouth at the party, the genuinely kind person who works quietly behind the scenes. So here's a final thought to leave you with. If Chaucer were writing this today, who would be on that trip? A tech billionaire, a reality TV star, an overworked teacher, a political commentator? The costumes and jobs might change, but the human comedy, well, that stays pretty much the same.